project management is oftentimes a lot of crisis management, and the longer a project goes on, the more chances of a crisis there are occurring, or a drift, or some sort of issue. With AI and the promise of shorter software development life cycles, for instance, you're going to be talking about a much shorter duration, a much shorter time for things to go wrong. So, it still heralds the need for a project manager, but it really, could make project managers, exponentially more efficient and effective at their jobs.
Hey everyone, I'm Debbie Madden, the host of the Scaling Tech podcast. And today I'm very excited to talk to Adam Roberts. Hey Adam, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. So we're talking about the impact and the potential that AI has had and will have on project and program management, which I'm very excited about. Many times we talk more on the tech side of the house, and sometimes we talk about on the product side of the house. And I'm very excited to dive in on the product side because there's a lot of talk, as you know, about how code is written, but product is, stuck at the hip with coding. So very excited to talk to you about that. Before we jump in, for those that don't know Adam, so Adam has had quite an amazing and outstanding career, over 20 years of project management at the forefront of tech and digital media. He worked at Disney, Viacom, and now at NBCUniversal. At Disney, he led a dedicated program management team, successfully launched both Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, and expanded Disney Plus to over 200 million subscribers. At Viacom, you headed up the PMO, steering an organization-wide agile transformation, which is a whole nother episode that I want to talk to you about. and then now at NBCUniversal, you're leading an experienced team of project and program managers to deliver complex data platforms across NBCUniversal. So, and that only scratches the surface. So, suffice it to say, you've seen a few project and program management teams.
Yes.
So let's start off with the broad question, and you can answer it as you wish. But yeah, like at a high level, how have you seen AI already impact and transform the field of project and program management?
Yeah, it's definitely has an increasing presence. I'm not sure if you can use the word transform yet. I think that's on the horizon. But I think, fundamentally, it's really about dealing with some of the more routine tasks. A really obvious one is note taking. It is a very important and often overlooked skill for project and program managers who are trying to distill information coming from a conversation amongst a number of people. And now we're seeing in tools like Zoom and others where there is an AI assistant that is listening and doing that summation. It's not perfect, but it does allow the project program manager to pay a little bit more attention to the nuances of the discussion and leave that administrative task behind. There's definitely been some advances in scheduling and resource management as well. Taking tools like Asana and some others that are starting to build AI assistants in, where you can do more effective resource planning using AI in a much more expeditious manner than previously those tools allowed.
Yeah, I've seen that. I think in my career, I have never been a program or project manager, but as an entrepreneur, I often feel like the skills that I need are very similar to the ones that you just described. And so I have also seen note-taking, scheduling, those things have already changed where I spend my time in a very positive way. And so I can even imagine it's only more inside the craft. And even if the team members have to then go back, summarize, disagree with the initial pass, is still taking 70% of the mental load so you can focus on the conversation. I mean, that's game changing. And so it's early days, and we're going to be talking about this for a while, but Anything you've seen to date that has been on the more harmful side, a negative impact of AI in the industry, the program and project management industry?
No, I haven't seen anything widespread. I would say that, as with any sort of new advance in technology, it is important to understand what it's appropriate for and what it's not. Certainly you can, if you decide to leave, for instance, a summation or the crafting of an email up to an AI, and you don't carefully vet those results. AI is not infallible. It does make mistakes. And it does have inherent biases and things that otherwise have not been ironed out, and so it requires that kind of vigilance to understand that anything that's going out that you had AI help with or assist with is still going out in your name. If it's email or meeting notes or any kind of communication. So really understanding the limitations of AI is important, and I think to that end, I think the embracing the movement of AI for companies is going to be very important for them to train people and make them aware of those limitations, because it's not widespread knowledge or general knowledge yet, because it's pretty new.
And I think that is going to be more challenging the more junior you are on the team,
Yeah,
right? Like if you said to me, I would use AI to translate this conversation into French and it would spit out a transcript, and I would say, I don't know, could be right.
right. Yeah,
I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah,
Right. And I think that's where, especially for the product side of the house where you are crafting requirements, making roadmaps. I mean, it's all relying on, verbiage. So if you really don't understand what's being auto generated, you run that risk of sending something out into the world that might not be that's going to happen. That's just going to happen. It's unavoidable, but I take your point. Now on the like the human being side, we always talk, lately about humans in the loop, and um, you know, every industry is having their different challenges and opportunities, but where do you see project and program managers grappling with AI and how it's changing like their profession and their teams? Like, is the ratio of product managers to engineers shifting? Is the job to be done of the on the product side, the project side shifting? Like, where do you see humans grappling with like how it affects their profession?
yeah. Well, I think as with a lot of professions where AI is particularly suitable, there is some anxiety that's generated by it. Is it going to replace my job? I think software engineers are also asking themselves that question.
Interesting.
And I've seen a lot of different answers, some of which seem almost to sort of placate and not really grapple with that question. But I think ultimately, particularly in these early stages, the increases in efficiencies and the ability for AI to help free up project managers from those mundane, sort of time consuming tasks is really going to help them focus on what really matters in these projects. The people doing the work, the timing of the work, the substance of the work, as opposed to trying to track down who was in that meeting or who wasn't in that meeting, who said this and who said that. If a lot of that is taken care of, it really does help focus on what really is the core project management, which is to basically help deliver in the fastest, most efficient way possible, while maintaining a high level of quality. So the in terms of what its implications are for the future, it's a compound question, because you can't answer what is the future of AI and project management without understanding what the future of AI is in software development
Right.
and publication and all of these industries where it's likely to be deeply embedded.
And when we saw Agile becoming widespread over a decade ago, we very rapidly saw on the tech ecosystem whole sets of new job titles: Scrum Master, Agile Coach, right? And more. And I know in my gut there's going to be new titles. I just don't know what they are yet, but I'm fascinated to see like right like cuz with these shifts in jobs that you're creating, there's going to be, you know, job titles and accountabilities and jobs to be done that are going to stay. There's going to be ones that go away, but there's also going to be new ones,
Sure.
right?
Yeah,
And they're going
and
to
some of that's going to be very difficult to predict, right? I mean, I think Gartner threw out something along the lines of by 2030, up to 80% of project management work will be handled by AI, which can be a very frightening statistic. But honestly, that notion of 80% of the work might mean that there is capacity to, basically take on more and deliver more. And that's the other aspect of AI. Project management is oftentimes, a lot of crisis management. And the longer a project goes on, the more chances of a crisis there are occurring, or a drift, or some sort of issue. With AI and the promise of shorter software development life cycles, for instance, you're going to be talking about a much shorter duration, a much shorter time for things to go wrong. So, it still heralds the need for a project manager, but it really, could make project managers, exponentially more efficient and effective at their jobs.
I believe that. And also, I think the risk of a glorious explosive problem might increase, right? Like you might go to sleep one night and wake up the next morning and go, "What
Yeah.
just happened?"
Yeah.
Right? Like that, like yeah, like the long slow burn might go away, but also the volcano might might increase. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
it's true. And and if you're, if we're talking well into the, 5-10 year range, and you're talking about, managing a project, but where there are multiple AI agents, at work. There was a really interesting article in Nature about the degradation of quality outputs when you're dealing with a closed AI system. In other words, if you have AIs talking to each other, the results will get worse and worse and worse and worse, because the errors will reverberate, and they'll do so at an exponential rate.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's definitely one of those things where, again, you do have to ask the question: if we are going to become that much more efficient, are as many project managers going to be needed? But then, as well, you can't simply say, well, AI is just going to take care of everything. They're going to run the project from end to end. They're going to code the thing end to end, because you need to have that human interaction for the foreseeable future anyway.
Exactly. And no, like there's going to be a lot of thought leaders that are going to ponder and help lead the answers, and some of them are going to be right, some of them are going to be wrong, but at the end of the day, all the rest of us are going to be doing the jobs to be done, integrating AI into our workflows, recognizing when we think something's not quite right. um, on the kind of flip side of this conversation, have you come across or do you know of any like myths or misconceptions or mistruths about AI? Like one you said like, "Oh, it's gonna do everything. There's gonna be right." Like what kind of what's going on in the rumor mill on the project management side that you've heard of? Anything that would be interesting?
I again, I think it goes back to the anxiety, I think, that any significant change introduces, and a lot of people have different interpretations, and they come at it with different perspectives. You have people that are all in on embracing it, but then maybe they don't ask the right questions as to the capabilities and the limits to those capabilities. And on the flip side, you have people that are so worried about it that they don't want to incorporate it. They don't want to explore it. And that is, to the disadvantage of themselves, of course, because AI is going to move forward with or without them, but also, honestly, to the organization and the teams that they work with, because there is an absolutely astounding potential here to really, really move things forward. The bar is pretty low in project management. I would say that's not a popular view amongst my colleagues, but last year, and generally, year over year, there are trillions of dollars spent on projects, right? 48
Yes.
trillion last year. One third of those were considered successful. That's a lot of waste on the table. And anything that you can do to, to help correct that, I think is worth pursuing.
Getting back to the organizational comment that you made a second ago, like there is a lot of what we see with not only AI, but this happened with Lean Startup, this happened with Agile, this happened with things prior to that. A lot of these innovative things you see, there's ground up movements, right? But like you mentioned the organization. So what's the responsibility of the organization? I mean, you've been at many large corporations, right? And navigating successfully with change on the technology side. Like how can organizations bear some accountability here, and how can they prepare their teams? Is it you know carving out innovation budgets? Is adding specific KPIs? Is it being okay with failure? Is it none of the above? Like, yeah, what's the company's role in all this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first and foremost, it's an absolute responsibility and duty to have an AI policy, and that can really vary. It's going to vary depending on the industry and the size of the company, and a myriad of other factors. But they have to have one. It's irresponsible, particularly for large organizations, to go at this blindly. Certainly, pockets of innovation that spring up when they're not really asked for is fine. I think that that is what we're built from. That's how we have streaming services. That's how a lot of our advances happen. But they should be done within a framework, particularly with something as weighty as AI, because things can go bad very quickly, and there is a lot of consternation around AI in sensitive areas, so you have to have a policy. And along with that, I think you have to foster AI literacy in your organization. Again, it's not going to be helpful to bury your head in the sand. It's not going to be helpful to give one or two line edicts around let's get into AI. We want to do AI this year. You have to really understand how to create a capability within your organization, and it has to be a self-propagating capability where people are willing to take their knowledge and their experience and move forward on it.
I heard a story the other week where some large company made a policy and they were real proud of it, and it was ethically compliant, and there was, it was rock solid. And then a whole bunch of like junior employees decided they were going to figure out a way around it. So they actually like went home, like collectively, like 50 people, like went home and like used AI at home, printed it out, and literally retyped it at work. And that was quicker than them not. That was quicker than following the company policy. So it wasn't like one or two people. It's like, and I'm not gonna say any more about that, so no one can know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But so like it's policy and it's room for innovation, and it's also a little dose of, and what's life will find a way. AI
Right.
is gonna find a way. A little bit of like, can't control all the things. And I think that slope is gonna be slippery if you put
Yes.
too many top down restrictions. Um and teams are already finding, well, I'm literally still saving time if I actually break the rules at home, come back. This is not a world we want to get into, and I
No.
think that the most collaborative teams are going to be the ones that are creating a policy that works for everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. At the same time, I think companies are understandably wanting to protect themselves. These, especially these public, Gen AI models. Whatever you type into them, they're going to keep unless you have an explicit agreement otherwise.
Exactly,
So
which are hard to come by.
yeah, right.
Yeah, so they're keeping it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting future for the tech side of the house, the project program side of the house, and you and I could have the same conversation in 6 months, and we can have different answers. So maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll have it. It'll be a twice a year thing, and we'll prove to ourselves
Right.
how fast things are moving.
Yes.
But yeah, sadly, we're just at time. But I appreciate this kind of like uh, thoughtful look at the past, the present, and the future. And we'll do it again in 6 months and see what we got wrong. So,
Sounds good.
all right. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. And Adam, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.